The PGA Tour and DP World Tour teaming up this week for the Scottish Open. 8 of the top 10 golfers in the world will tee it up at the Renaissance Club. The course will provide one final tune-up for the game's last major on the calendar. The Open Championship will be played next week at Royal Liverpool. Kyle Porter, never shy going on Twitter. We know golf and tennis traditionally linked together. Talking about Jordan Spieth on the course, no regard for where the driver goes. Jordan off the course, no regard for where the iron goes. I see what you did there, Kyle. Spieth with his full swing buddies, Justin Thomas and Rickie Fowler at Wimbledon recently. Hashtag frenemies. All right, let's welcome in Kyle Porter of the First Cut Podcast. And we got to talk about that tweet, Kyle. In the spirit of tennis, I'm curious to get your thoughts. Are you serving Renaissance or are you the other side of the net serving Renaissance? Which one is it for you?
That's a great question. I like Renaissance. Let's have some fun with it. Let's get weird. Let's get crazy. It's the beginning of a fun couple weeks stretch of golf here in Great Britain. So it should be a blast. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think it depends on which side of the pond you're at and which side they're at. All right, let's get to Jordan Spieth, who returns to the Scottish Open ahead of the Open Championship. Never traditionally played this event, but did so last year, finished T10. Why the focus on him this week for you?
Well, I think he's interesting because he's one of the 3 or 4 guys that I'm really focused on next week, right, at the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool. I think a lot has been made about Jordan Spieth's career at Augusta National, which has been very good, but I think his real kind of best major championship shot every year, Tommy, is the Open Championship. That's where he can be creative. That's where weird stuff happens that he handles very well. And he played quite well going into last year's Open and played pretty well at the Open Championship at the Old Course at St. Andrews. So I'm just really intrigued. He's kind of had an up and down year, kind of quietly up and down, at least for him. I'm intrigued to see if he can find kind of a fortnight's worth of magic here over there in Scotland and England, and maybe win a tournament or two at the end of this summer.
And we looked at his past 5 British Opens. Again, 2017, he was the champ at Royal Birkdale out in England. All right, if I were to ask you a sleeper for the Scottish Open, you're going to give me a Swede here, one that's been in pretty good form recently.
Yeah, I am going to give you a Swede. It's Ludvig Åberg. He's, I believe, 55 to 1 to win this golf tournament. You see plus 5,500 there. Listen, Ludvig Åberg is maybe a name that not a ton of people know, but he's a young, up-and-coming potential star. You know, he's somebody that he was playing at Texas Tech this time 4 months ago in the NCAA championship. I guess that was just 2 months ago now. But he's somebody that could be on the Ryder Cup team in September. That sounds crazy, but he's been playing really good golf. If you look at the last 3 months of strokes gained from tee to green, which is kind of the stat that you want to look at as guys are going into events in the near future, Ludvig Åberg is in the top 15 in this field, and that includes names like Rory and Rickie and Scottie, and kind of on down the list. So I've been really impressed with how Ludvig has handled his transition into professional golf. Finished in the top 10 a week ago at the John Deere Classic. I'm excited to see him get boots on the ground over there in Scotland and potentially make some noise and get on that Ryder Cup team.
You mentioned some big names that'll be in the field this week. And in terms of your pick to win, though, you're going a little bit further down the board. Tommy Fleetwood coming in a nice 22 to 1.
Yeah, a little bit further down the board, still a pretty big name. Fleetwood's another guy that was at Wimbledon, looking like a king with that hat on, and looked very nice there over at those championships. But it's these championships that I'm focused on, and Tommy's been playing really good golf this summer. He's hitting it, Tommy, like he did, 2017, 2018, when he was a real major championship contender at places like the Open, like the U.S. Open. He's hitting it at that level again, and I love the way he's playing. I think he's going to contend either both this week and next week, or one of the two, something like that. I'm really excited to see what Tommy can do at the Scottish Open, and then at the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool next week.
Again, big names at this tournament. Scottie Scheffler, the betting favorite at 6 to 1. Again, all eyes will be at the Scottish Open this week, but also at the Open Championship next week. So if I were to pretend to be your editor, Kyle, and I ask you for an early storyline for the Open Championship, what would that be?
Well, for me, it is Scottie. You know, I was reading through his interview, his press conference today at the Scottish Open, and he was like, listen, I'm not going to let what you guys think about my play affect what I think about my play. And the reason he said that is because he's gotten a lot of questions, criticism, critique about his putting. You know, he's having an all-time great ball striking year, but he's only won twice. Now, those 2 wins were pretty good ones. It was Phoenix and the Players' Championship, but he's having the type of ball striking year, Tommy, where you would expect 3, 4, 5, 6 wins, not just 2. And so I'm really interested to see, you know, I just tweeted out these numbers. Over the last 3 months of players that are in this Scottish Open field, he's gaining 3.5 strokes from tee to green. The next best guy is less than 2. So he is just lapping the field, the best players in the world when it comes to ball striking, but he hasn't won since March, since that Players' Championship. So can Scottie cash in that good play either at the Scottish Open or next week at the Open Championship and get the second major win of his career?
So the natural follow-up, I think, then for me to ask you is if an early lean for the Open Championship, do you think Scottie can cash in there, or do you favor another golfer to come away with the Clares jug?
Well, I certainly think Scottie could, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna fall into the trap. Everybody's gonna do it, and then it's not gonna happen. But I love the way Rory's playing right now. It's an easy pick because obviously he won here back in 2014. The last 2 winners of the Open Championship out Royal Liverpool. Rory in 2014 and then Tiger before that. So we've gotten a pretty good stretch over the last 15 years or so of winners at Hoylake at this Open Championship. I just, you know, I thought LA, I thought that US Open, Tommy, was really the closest he's been, like truly the closest he's been to winning a major championship since he last won one in Valhalla in 2014 at the PGA. You could argue last year at the Old Course, but he didn't really have a chance on the last couple of holes, whereas he did at LA. I mean, that was like, he was really in it for 71, 72 holes. And I think he's going to carry that good play forward. I heard a confidence in him in LA that I hadn't heard over the past 3, 4, 5 years. So I think Rory gets it done, caps off the major season, gets to number 5 9 years after getting to number 4.
Rory McIlroy currently listed at Caesars Sportsbook at 7-1. Kyle, certainly appreciate it. Check out the First Cut podcast where KP with Rick Gaiman, Mark Immelman, and Greg Ducharme to talk about Tuesday's Senate hearing regarding PGA Tour and PIF, and also a preview of the Genesis Scottish Open this weekend. And speaking of the Scottish Open, weekend coverage on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. Typically, weekend coverage on CBS is 3 p.m. Eastern, but due to the time change and the change in venue, 12 Eastern both days to get your fix on for the PGA Tour and DP World Tour.